Shortly after midnight, 19-year-old Alina and her 18-year-old friend Claudia were on their way home from visiting a local pub.
Hey! Oh God, are you okay? Did you bring your mobile?
Sure. Hello?
Shit!
Yes, hello?
The team of Vienna's crime squad, under team leader Superintendent Lena, was called to the scene.
We received word from our colleagues at the scene. They reported that somebody had been stabbed several times.
There were several injuries to the victim's back caused by a stabbing weapon. The young man died at the scene.
What exactly happened? It all went so fast.
Alina and Claudia unexpectedly became crucial witnesses to a horrible crime.
I ran after them.
In which direction did they run?
They ran down 2 different alleys, this one and that one.
We'll issue an immediate APB for 2 young men in their early 20s, dark jackets, dark hair. They fled from Eschenbach in a northerly direction.
The identification of the victim is a first priority in such a case. Here, the young man didn't carry any ID, unfortunately.
Inside the sports bag was a purse with an emergency bank card issued to a woman and a note with a first name written on it several times. We entered a query into our system with the name on the bank card and the first name on the note, and we came up with a name.
In order to be sure, we took the victim's fingerprints and got confirmation that he was in fact 20-year-old Boris N.
Boris N. lived with his parents near the scene of the crime. He had a police record of minor offences. Boris N. was quite popular among his friends. The forensics people found a long blood trail near the crime scene, which followed the offender's escape route.
As the blood trace was more than 300 meters long, we assumed that the offenders were also injured during the attack.
It's quite common that offenders who use stabbing weapons are also injured. If the blade hits something hard, like a bone, or even flesh or clothes, the offender's hand may slip, so it gets cut by the blade.
One of the most important things during the crime scene investigation was to find the murder weapon, but it couldn't be found despite an extensive search by our forces.
Informing someone about a loved one's death is one of the most difficult things in police work. Of course, we get trained for that, but not every police officer is suited for this task.
It's important not to let these things get too close to you. You need to keep a certain distance so that you're able to stay objective.
Did you notice that your son was in trouble recently? Work problems or arguments with friends?
No.
The parents couldn't imagine who would do something like that to their son. He had a lot of friends, and they weren't able to give us any clues on who might have done this.
Do you have any idea where your son went yesterday evening?
The parents just told us that he had planned to go to a fitness centre. This corresponded with the sports bag we found, but they weren't able to tell us who he might have met there.
After daybreak, the crime scene investigators had gradually widened the range of their search. They found a blood trace in a narrow alley nearby.
These blood traces were photographed, secured and taken to the forensics lab for analysis.
These are the recordings from January 5th from 6 to 10 p.m.
The police questioned the owner of the fitness centre. A surveillance video showed that Boris N. was training between 7:30 and 9 p.m. on the evening of the murder.
With your permission, I'd like to get a copy of this tape, please.
Boris N. was stabbed to death 3 hours later. What happened during the time between his workout and the deadly attack?
In order to obtain more information on Boris N., we took a look at his friends and people he knew. We talked to them and also investigated the social networks he used.
Do you know what he did in his spare time apart from his fitness training?
His friends and acquaintances mentioned that Boris N. was into gambling and that he visited gambling halls several times a week.
Forensics analysed samples from the 300-metre-long blood trace.
The DNA analysis of the blood trace that led away from the victim produced a surprising result.
This is the lab result from the blood traces we found at the park. Now look.
It wasn't human blood, but animal blood.
See you later.
Yes, thanks.
The investigators followed up the lead that Boris N. frequently visited gambling halls.
During our investigation, we got in touch with a female friend of his who told us that he won 3,000 euros in a gambling hall near the crime scene.
The autopsy of the body produced new evidence regarding the course of events.
The victim in this case was stabbed with brute force. The wounds are very deep and some of the ribs were fractured. 4 of these 6 wounds entered the chest cavity and punctured the lung, which caused his death. The most important evidence from the autopsy was that 2 knives were used. Therefore, it must have been 2 attackers.
We can assume that the crime wasn't planned but rather spontaneous. Both the crime scene and the pattern indicated this. The victim was targeted and the attack carried out with a lot of energy and brutality. And it wasn't just one strike, but a series of them.
The investigators started their work at the numerous gambling halls in the area in order to view the surveillance footage. They were successful. One of the surveillance tapes showed Boris N. talking to two young men at the night of the crime. Simultaneously, the lab analysis of the second blood trail was a hit too. The blood could be tied to a man who was in the police database. The suspect was 20-year-old Gerhard S. He had previous convictions for possession and assault. His age and description fit the witnesses' accounts.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to ask you a few questions. Do you recognize the young man on the photo?
No.
Here's the thing. We're currently investigating a murder where we found blood traces near the crime scene. And according to DNA, it's your blood.
Whatever happened there, I've got nothing to do with it.
Gerhard S. claimed that he was in the park the night before New Year's, 5 days before the murder happened.
Gerhard S. said that people must have seen what happened there, so we started to locate and question them.
Meanwhile, the police routinely checked taxi firms to see if two young men had taken a taxi in the area on the night of the murder.
One of the taxi drivers remembered that he picked up two men near the crime scene.
When we found out that the two suspects may have fled the area of the crime by taxi, we had this respective car examined for trace evidence.
At the same time, the investigators asked witnesses if they recognized the two men who were seen with Boris N. in the gambling hall.
The witnesses explained that these two men weren't the perpetrators, as they said that they would definitely recognize a specific jacket.
I don't know.
It's hard to tell.
It all went so fast that night.
Even though Alina and Claudia didn't recognize the two young men, Superintendent Lehner wanted to ID them. The police checked all possible venues in the area, questioning the staff and customers about the two men.
Would you mind looking at this photo and tell me if you recognize these two men?
No idea.
Are you absolutely sure?
But even this thorough investigation didn't provide a clue to identifying the wanted men.
Goodbye.
When we questioned the gambling hall owners, they claimed that nobody had won an amount around 3,000 euros on the day of the crime or on the preceding days.
So Boris N. probably only pretended that he won the money. The investigators arranged for a lineup with Gerhard S. Although they had been doubtful at first, Alina and Claudia were able to eliminate Gerhard S. as a suspect.
We investigated the claims of Gerhard S., and indeed we found witnesses who confirmed that he was in a fight at that time.
The examination of the foot maps in the taxi didn't produce any substantial evidence.
The photos of the two men were released to the media.
Usually we balance the pros and cons if we have photos of suspects or witnesses. Only if publication is a last option in regards to identification do we proceed, as we also need sanctioning from the respective court.
The next morning there was already a tangible feedback, and it was a big surprise.
Shortly thereafter, two young men called us and said, "It's us on the photos and we'd like to clarify things."
Okay, thanks.
Christian H. was 17 years old. He lived in Vienna with his mother, doing an apprenticeship as a car mechanic. 18-year-old Michael T. grew up at his grandmother's. He had no school-leaving qualification and did odd jobs as a temporary worker.
Michael T. and Christian H. claimed that they were at the gambling hall in order to have a drink and meet Boris N. there for the first time.
We met him at the gambling hall. We wanted to gamble, and he told us a bit about the gambling machines.
So we watched him play for a while, as he said that he was on a roll, and that takes some time. Is this thing hot?
Looks like it.
Cool. Win anything?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Good man.
Got a fact for me?
Sure thing. Fag.
Thanks. This is how you do it.
They said that they talked with Boris N. about the machines, how to play them, how to get them to dole out.
A lot of young adults and teenagers are addicted to gambling, which is, strangely enough, similar to British female pensioners. The reason is that humans don't just think and work, but also like to play. Playing is in our nature, and after a while you can get addicted to it. With young people, it's also often because they want new experiences or suffer from some sort of emptiness inside. And this sensation-seeking brings some excitement and emotion into their lives.
Let's get out of here.
Good idea. See you.
Ciao.
And what did you do then?
Then we went to my grandma's place. She made us dinner.
And I spent the night at his place.
He didn't want to go home because it was quite late.
As a routine procedure, Lena examined Christian H.'s and Michael T.'s hands.
Yes, okay.
Pull your sleeves up, please.
Neither of them had any injuries to their hands, neither their fingers, nor their hands, nor the back of their hands. Nothing at all.
The boys were asked to leave their jackets so that they could be examined for trace evidence.
Why do you need our jackets?
It's for our forensics guys. It's a routine procedure.
Got it, okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
Alina and Claudia were asked to come to the precinct again. They had ruled out the two boys from the photos. A lineup was supposed to bring clarity.
Is there anything you remember? Any details?
No,
No, it's too difficult.
I just can't tell for sure.
Following the lineup, Alina and Claudia weren't sure about anything.
We didn't see any details at all that night.
Christian H's and Michael T's jackets were examined in order to check if they contained any trace evidence from the victim.
Do you recall where Michael was during the night of January 5th to 6th?
Yes, he was with me.
When did he arrive, approximately?
Around midnight.
Was he alone?
No, he was with his friend Christian.
Did they both leave again?
They went up to his room.
Of course, we wanted to confirm Michael D's alibi, as he claimed that he and his friends were at his grandmother's, and she was able to confirm it.
Superintendent Lehner and his team continued their investigation of the gambling milieu.
The two young men who presented themselves after the publication of the photos had an alibi, but during further investigation we discovered two other men who talked to Boris N. while he played at the gambling hall. We made a printout from the surveillance video and showed it to the witnesses.
Yes. I think that could be right.
That really could be them. Yes.
They weren't sure, but they thought that they'd recognize one of the men, so we immediately tried to locate these suspects.
The two young men were seen together with the victim. When we showed the printout to one of the gambling hall owners, he said that he recognized them and even knew where one of them worked. We drove to this man's workplace, talked to his boss, and he explained that the other suspect worked there as well.
That day, they weren't at work, but their boss gave us their addresses. We found them there and took them to the precinct for questioning.
Igor F. was 21 years old, and he came to Austria from Kosovo with his parents when he was 6. 24-year-old Sami O. got to know Igor at work. He lived at his father's and had a clean record. The investigator explained to Igor F. and Sami O. that they were suspects in the murder case of Boris N.
What? Who?
Boris? Who is Boris?
No, I don't know him.
Are you absolutely sure about that?
Yes.
And how do you explain this photo then?
We saw him at the gambling hall and watched him play from behind. We had a few drinks and that's it. We were there for 10 minutes maybe. How's it going?
Good, as you can see. I'm on a roll at the moment.
Winning?
Quite a lot, actually.
How many bonus games?
100 so far. You need to know the machine, and then it goes smoothly.
Cool.
Watch it. Keep your hands to yourself, asshole.
No need to shit bricks, man. We didn't talk much. He wasn't interested in talking to us, so we left after a while.
Yeah, we really didn't kill him. We watched him for 10 minutes, had a little chat and left, I swear.
Where did you go then?
I went to my brother's.
And I met with some other friends to have a few more drinks.
Your brother and your friends can confirm this?
Sure.
Sure, we didn't do it.
While they were being questioned already, Sami O's brother was asked to come to the precinct.
When was that approximately?
Around 10 o'clock in the evening, I guess.
Did he leave again after that?
Alibis by family members are usually to be treated with caution. Who would admit or want to realize that the son or daughter, the wife or husband committed a crime? Family protects family. Such alibis are tricky to handle.
Igor F's and Sami O's jackets were seized too.
Why?
It's for our forensics guys. It's a routine procedure.
As the witnesses recognized the suspects from the surveillance footage, another lineup was arranged.
Do you recognize any of these young men?
It's too hard to tell. I don't recognize anyone in particular. It was dark and everything went too fast.
Of course, they wanted to be absolutely sure, even though it was dark, and they weren't. After all, we showed them a lineup of young men who all matched the general description. It's tough to point out specific differences in such a situation and to tell if it's one guy or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Even though the witnesses couldn't give us a clear identification, we still assumed that the motive for the murder was somehow connected to the gambling hall. We only had to find it.
Boris N. was stabbed to death by two men on January the 5th. He trained at a fitness centre beforehand. Then he visited several gambling halls. The surveillance video showed Boris with Christian H. and Michael T. They claimed that they met him there by accident. Another surveillance video showed the victim with Igor F. and Sami O. They also claimed that they just had a quick chat with Boris N. Which of these four suspects told the truth? Was Boris N. murdered by unknown men on his way home? The forensic scientists discover blood on one of the jackets. It's the victim's blood.
When we received the lab result and were sure that it was the victim's blood on that jacket, we immediately ordered the arrest of the two suspects.
At the same time, a young man contacted the police. He claimed that a friend of his confessed Boris N's murder to him.
When was that?
Last week, like I said.
Christian H. vehemently denied that he had anything to do with the murder.
We arrested Christian H. at his workplace. Michael T. was on the run. He might have heard that we arrested his friend. He'd already gone into hiding.
The investigators confronted Christian H. with their assumption that he was at the scene of the crime.
Which park? I wasn't at any park.
You know which park I'm talking about?
I have no idea, I swear.
Christian H.'s mother and sister arrived in order to attend the interrogation. The suspect continued to deny that he had a hand in the murder. The investigators confronted him with the victim's blood on his friend's jacket and his friend's confession.
Christian.
I'm sorry. Could we talk alone, please?
Come with me, please.
He can have a lawyer or a trusted person by his side if he likes, but if the investigator is able to build a special bond, the trusted person is often sent out so that they can talk in confidence when it comes to describing certain details. They might be embarrassed by certain things, so they prefer talking to a person of authority, as it has more of a neutral character, instead of confessing things in front of family members.
Where did you meet him?
At the gambling hall.
Finally, Christian H. confessed to the murder of Boris N. He committed the crime together with Michael T. Then something happened that the investigators didn't expect.
Mum, it's Michael.
Hold on a second. Okay, you can pick up the call.
Mikey?
Michael T. told his sister that he was in trouble and had to go into hiding. She offered her help and asked him to meet her.
I'll be there. Are you okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay. See you soon.
Meanwhile, Christian T. is interrogated regarding the timing of events.
We bought them at an arms shop.
Michael T. and Christian H. spent the whole day together. They bought the 2 knives, the murder weapons, at an arms shop, saying that they needed the knives for self-protection.
Buying a weapon means that you want to look protected, that you want to show that you're able to put up a fight. Psychologically, it's a sign of a fear of failure, a feeling of inferiority. At the same time, this action lowers the threshold against using the weapon. And this action lowers the willingness to actually use the weapon.
The investigators watched the meeting place near a block of council flats.
We met Boris at this gambling hall and got to talk to him. He said that he was on a roll and... Is this thing hot?
Looks like it.
Cool, win anything?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Good man.
Got a fact for me?
Sure thing.
Thanks.
Listen, do you know where we could buy some grass?
Grass? Sure. I can hook you up.
When can you get it?
Chill, man. You see this machine? You see it?
He offered to double our money. I said no, but Mickey said let's try it.
Rock and roll.
Whatever.
The 2 of them let Boris gamble with their 60 euros, but things turned out differently than expected, and he soon lost the money.
Didn't you say you were on a roll?
Chillax, man.
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Totally. Come on, don't be a pussy. We'll manage, don't worry.
I want my money. Let's get out of here.
I'll give it to you tomorrow when the machine forks out. Don't worry.
After the 3 of them had lost their money, they decided that they'd go outside and look for someone they could rob.
What's up, guys? Let's go to the park and do it.
You're idiots.
It's your fault.
They both confessed that they had their knives already hidden up their sleeves because they were afraid that Boris N. might run off.
We went to the park. But Boris didn't want to do it and tried to run away, and we wanted to get our money back.
Are you in or not?
Fuck off.
Then we went to Mickey's grandma. and left there again and threw the knives in the river. The perpetrators threw the murder weapons in the Danube, but our divers were able to retrieve them.
The case was closed after their confession and the retrieval of the murder weapons. Christian H. and Michael T. were found guilty of murder. Due to the severe brutality of the crime, they were each sentenced to 13 years in prison. Boris N. lost his life because of €60.